So I'm going to continue this presentation and moving forward with our fireside chat, which will be moderated by my friend, committee chair for the IFA, the communication chair for the IFA Black Franchise Leadership Council, Nancy Williams. After 14 years managing customer care and sales support for teams in the wireless industry, Nancy Williams launched Invaluable Franchise Consulting Incorporated in 2015. Her firm specializes in assisting women and people of color in identifying great franchise investment opportunities for themselves and their families. Recently, she took on a consulting role at Ben & Jerry's, heading up the franchise development and promoted her new racial equity ownership program, which you'll hear a little bit more about today in our program. Combining her passion for entrepreneurship with her love of writing, she's an amazing writer, became a content contributor for Black Enterprise magazine in 2016, a staff writer for the Franchise Dictionary magazine in 2019, sharing both enlightening and inspiring stories about franchise success stories in the world. In 2020, she purchased and launched Money Pages franchise, becoming the first franchise owner in California. We are grateful to have Nancy chair the Community Partnership Committee for the Black Franchise Leadership Council, and excited she's here with us today to moderate our fireside chat. So without further ado, I hand it over to Nancy Williams.
Thank you so much, Richard. Really appreciate all of the kind words. I'm excited to be here. This is one of my favorite times of year, and I love doing the program. I'm honored to be part of the Black Franchise Leadership Council. I really enjoy chairing the community partnerships. And, what better way to celebrate Juneteenth than talking about inspiring, empowering, and transforming people through franchising. I'm really excited because we have two powerful women today that I'm going to be interviewing and talking to about their success in franchising. They both own and represent some powerful and exciting brands. And that's, my passion is to get a lot of us, particularly women, into franchise ownership. But we know that we need many more people of color and faces representing. We've got a lot of talent to bring to franchising, and you'll learn a little bit more today about two women that are doing just that. So let me start by reading their bios and welcoming them. Our first speaker is Darcel Stewart. Darcel is president and owner of 5 UPS store franchise locations in the Atlanta metro area. Darcel has experienced 14 years of successful operations after acquiring her first store in 2009. Prior to her entrepreneurial endeavors, Darcel held various corporate finance and accounting positions spanning 25 plus year period to include companies such as CNN, the Boeing Company, and Motorola. Of course, my phone would ring. She has received recent honors from the Atlanta Business Journal, Atlanta Business League, the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, also nominated for an Entrepreneur Award from the UPS Store Corporate Group, selected from owners representing more than 6,000 locations nationwide. Darcel holds an MBA in finance from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, a BS in accounting from Wharton, and is a certified public accountant. Her involvement in the community and professional associations include being a lifetime member of the National Black MBA Association, the Douglas County Chamber, past president of the Windy City chapter of Jack and Jill, and an active member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Welcome, Darcel, and thank you for being here today. I told you we've got some powerful folks today. Next up is Adina Bayo, who owns 4 IHOP franchises in the northern New Jersey area. She opened her first location in Irvington, New Jersey at the age of 27, making her one of the youngest franchisees in the country and the second largest employer in the township. Bayo is the founder of Cornbread, a fast casual farm to table soul food restaurant with 2 locations, and recently launched her latest restaurant concept, Urban Vegan. Adina is a successful real estate developer with a portfolio of several major residential and mixed-use urban redevelopment projects across Northern Virginia. Adina also sits on the prestigious Federal Reserve Bank of New York Advisory Council on Small Business and Agriculture, was named to Ebony Magazine's Power 100 list, and has been honored as one of the top 50 women in business in the New Jersey Business Journal. Please welcome Adina, and thank you as well for being here today. So, we're really excited. I can't even contain it because you are going to learn some great information today. And I really want to give them both an opportunity to share their stories with you. So, Darcel, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to franchising?
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. And hello to everyone, all our participants. I'm very excited about participating in this event, and I thank Mr. O'Neill for sharing that historical background on how our entrepreneurship journey relates to this Juneteenth holiday. You gave a very good synopsis of my background, so I won't repeat a lot of that, but the highlight is that I came from a long corporate background. So my background, again, finance and accounting in major Fortune 500 corporations. So I spent the first 25 years of my career in that space, but I always had my mindset on my own business. And I say my own business very loosely because franchising, moving into the franchise world is really a subset of owning your own business. I could have, gone into just a non-franchise style, either acquisition of an existing business or startup and growth of a business. I decided on franchising, just kind of looking at my background, looking at my strengths and weaknesses in particular. I'm a finance and accounting person, CPA. Some people call us number crunchers. And I don't think of myself like that. I do feel I have more of an overall general business type background. However, I do know my strengths and weaknesses. And so looking at myself, sales and marketing, those are not my strengths. My strengths are digging into the numbers, doing the analysis, looking at the P&Ls. So in terms of, finance and accounting and matching that up with the other side of the business spectrum, the sales and marketing side, I felt that franchising, and in particular, the brand that is associated with being a franchisee, would complement me and my business skills. So in other words, the name recognition will help me with respect to being able to get my name out there in the business community, help to grow my business, help to operate my business. And so what I was looking for in terms of a franchise was 3 things. Number one, a great brand. And so I did not have to then rely just on my skills in terms of being able to market and sell my business. Again, looking at strengths and weaknesses, that is not, my area of expertise so much. And so if I had a great brand that sold itself, then that I felt would help me be successful in the business, in having my own business. So that was number one, looking for a franchise with a great brand. Number two, I was looking for something with sustainability. I felt that franchises potentially, and I say potentially very, strongly, potentially had the ability to sustain economic ups and downs. And this whole pandemic season was an excellent demonstration of what I meant by that in terms of sustainability. And I was looking for a brand that would weather the storm, that was not a fad, something that would kind of come and go. We all know stories of businesses, franchises that no longer are relevant in these days. I actually looked at some of those back in my earlier days when I was doing due diligence on what type of business I wanted to get into. So sustainability of the brand was the second area. And then the third area, profitability. We're in business to make money. We're not, this is not a nonprofit endeavor. We're in business to make money. And so profitability, but that was, something that, again, I was very comfortable with, how to assess profitability, how to forecast profitability. And so those were the three things that I looked for. And that's what kind of led me into that whole franchising space, and also led me to actually move forward with the particular franchise that I am now involved with, which is the UPS stores.
Great. That's thank you so much, Darcel, that you provided a lot of information there. And I hear a lot of the same things that I talk to my clients about. Knowing exactly what it is that they're looking for helps. You don't necessarily need to know everything, but a framework is really great. So Adina, I want to turn over you with the same question. Tell us a little bit about your background, which I did in your bio, but really what led you to franchising?
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks. So I think for me, franchising was never something I sought out to do. I really got into franchising as a mechanism to really, as a vehicle to kind of bring accessibility to the community I was living in at the time, in Irvington. It was a community I had grew up in. I didn't grow up in it. I worked at a McDonald's when I was a little girl in Irvington. And surprisingly, was the first Black owner of a McDonald's franchise in the New York metro area. I worked for him when I was like 12 or 13 years old. And Irvington was this beautiful town. So when I went to college, I started eating at an IHOP next to my college, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the pancake. I fell in love with the little house, the little decor, which is an amazing thing, So when I came back to Irvington, in Newark, really, nothing like that existed for me in my community. And when I moved and bought my first house in Irvington, 3-family, it just got worse because this community that I knew that was so nice and pretty, everybody, all the whites had left. It became a predominantly Black community. I think we refer to that as a white flight. And it was just not the community that I remember. So I wrote a letter to the mayor and I was like, you suck, the town suck. How come we don't have an IHOP? And you're not expecting anyone to respond back to those letters. Now we call it keyboard thugging. You get behind your keyboard and you thug it out. So he actually called me back, like, yes, I got your letter calling my town suck. I want to have a meeting with you. So we had a meeting and he said to me, as a matter of fact, since you want an IHOP so bad, the diner that you call Jinky in your letter is up for sale. Do you want it? Let's go talk to the owner. And we went to go talk to the owner. It was this old white Greek guy. And when I walked in, he was and the mayor said to him, hey, I have this young lady that want to buy your diner. And he just looked at me like a real disgusting kind of way. It was like, her. And that kind of just fueled me. It was like, this man cannot continue to be in our community. He just got to go. So I remember giving him a deposit out of like sheer emotions. And when I found out I couldn't get my deposit back, I got on this whole bandwagon of trying to be an IHOP franchisee. And I was at the time like 24, 25, and I applied. IHOP turned me down twice. And I'm just the kind of person, I don't take no for answer. And when they turned me down, I reached out personally to IHOP corporate, and I spoke to a lady at the time. She was the only Black woman at the time working at IHOP corporate. And I was lucky enough to get on the phone with her. And I explained what was happening in Irvington. And she was just really moved by that. And she and I became this journey to bring an IHOP to Irvington. and we were successful. IHOP did approve the franchise. And I think 3 or 4 years later, we went on to be the fastest growing IHOP in the whole Northeast. It was just that successful. So that was my initial journey into becoming an IHOP franchisee.
Thank you so much. I have to smile a lot because I've had the pleasure of knowing Adina for a couple of years, and I interviewed her for Black Enterprise, and her story always makes me smile. She's such a go-getter. She, like she said, she never lets anyone tell her no, and really that's the way to be successful in life. The other thing I love about your two stories is they're totally different, and that is honestly what franchising is all about. Franchising a lot of time meets you where you are. People do it for so many different reasons, and there is a solution. There's an opportunity there for everyone. It's hard to believe. I know we only got about 10 minutes left in our segment, so I'm gonna skip a couple of questions. I know,
Sure.
but I'm gonna skip a couple questions because I think what people really want to hear from the two of you is about the biggest challenges facing Black entrepreneurs today. So whether that's in franchising or in independent, but I want to hear more about that. So Darcel, do you want to share with us what you feel the biggest challenges are today?
Yes, and I actually want to say that what I'm going to talk about is not just particular to Black franchisees, I think, or Black entrepreneurs, but I do feel that it impacts our community significantly, at least from my perspective, and that is staffing and the whole labor aspect of franchising or of business ownership. This has been exacerbated in recent years during the pandemic. I'm sure everyone, even on this panel and participants have heard of the mass difficulty across all industries with respect to hiring and retaining staff of all levels, from the retail level that I operate in up to professional levels. Turnover, lack of availability of employees to hire. So that actually is my biggest challenge, has been my biggest challenge for the 14 years that I've been involved with business ownership. When I did my due diligence back in 2008, 2009, prior to actually getting involved with this UPS store franchise, I did I canvassed existing owners. And interestingly enough, they were pretty much all white men for the most part. And I'm going to come back to that. But in any case, when I interviewed them and asked this exact question, what is the most challenging thing that you face with respect to being a franchise, particularly in this UPS store network? Staffing, labor, all of that, by far the answer. And as simple as it sounds, and as easy as it is to get your head around, to this day, 14 years later, that is still my challenge. Being able to get great people, being able to get people that fit our customer service delivery space, very important. You can think of as a consumer, one thing that you definitely expect when you walk into a business such as mine or any business is excellent customer service to you as a customer. Not everyone is good at that. And I have had many painful experiences to find that out. Retaining employees. So, turnover is very expensive in a business. So retaining employees is very costly when you don't have that type of momentum. One thing I want to say on a positive side of this, though, and this is one of the questions maybe you're going to skip, but I do want to mention this. In terms of having multi-locations, I have day-to-day managers that are on site. I personally cannot, manage each of those locations day to day. I have the greatest staff of managers in the world. And so I will say that, at some point you are able to develop and grow and retain your staff, but it is very, very, very difficult. And so that today, again, is my biggest challenge. And so when I say that it impacts our community, it's the way it is and I can't answer exactly why, but the way it is, most of my staff are African American. I would say probably 90% of my staff is African American. And so to the extent that, I can provide employment opportunities to people in my community, to the extent that I can pay, as best as I can with respect to my profitability of my business, a livable wage, enable them to, provide either for themselves or for their families, or in the case of college students, be able to save money for school, all of these types of things. I've watched some of my employees be able to buy their first car with the job that I've had. I've seen some of my employees be able to purchase property with the job that I have provided to them. And so to the extent that I can provide those opportunities, it is very rewarding, despite the
Right,
change.
right.
Despite
Yeah,
the change.
I suspect Adina would agree with you that staffing is a challenge as well. But Adina, what would you say is the biggest challenge facing Black entrepreneurs today?
I think from my lenses and my view, I think the access to capital is one of the most challenging things that I see either prevents people from getting into this business or scaling in this business, right? And I'll give you some statistics. The statistics go something like this. About over 60% of Black women in this country are going to start their businesses, be it franchise, be it anything, without the participation of any major bank, right? And I think when you have a group of people that are starting business at the level that Black women and Black people are starting business in this country, to be so systematically locked out of the financial system is in itself is a deterrent, right? When I went to go open my very first IHOP, a part of that story that I didn't tell you guys was that 7 banks that all sit in my community, that benefits in my community, that do business in my community, they all said no to me. They all said no to me because they hadn't seen an Adina before, right? I was a 25-year-old girl looking for a bank to give me $2.5 million in funding to go open a restaurant. That went around, that $2 million went around and created almost 62 jobs, right? They hadn't seen me before. That wasn't a picture that they were comfortable with. But if you dug the surface deeper and peel the onions and see what I was at 25-year-old, I was overseeing a bank of $100 million. I had real estate out the wazoo. If I was a young white male that was sitting for that banker, that could have been a possibility. That was something they were comfortable with. But oftentimes, we are not normalized. I said to my friends all the time, the thing a banker fear the most is a Black woman or an ambitious Black woman, right? And I think I talk to people all the time. We have to advocate. There is this idea of equality that is bothering me so much that we look at everybody in the same lenses in terms of access to capital. And that's part of like the advocacy work that I'm doing on my side is no, you have really powerful entrepreneurs out here, but for the lack of capital, they cannot see their dream actualized. So for me, I think it's that piece.
Yes, absolutely. We talk about it all the time. I'm sure Richard's there shaking his head because access to capital is something we work on constantly. Well, unfortunately, we are at the end of the time. You guys have so much information to offer. I hope that our audience that had participated just sees a little bit of what we're doing here at the Black Franchise Leadership Council while we are using this program to commemorate Juneteenth. We do lots of activities throughout the year, lots of programming that we're here to educate and again I really appreciate Adina and Darcel participating, and I hope to be able to moderate a panel at another event soon. Thank you again. Richard?
Thank you, Nancy. That was just absolutely powerful. I just have to say, I'm a banker and I love Black women who are ambitious. So come be ambitious with me. I just love that your stories that you shared and the takeaways, multiple pathways to franchising. No two ways are the same. You both are the example of being the change in your community that you want to see. And you continue to trailblaze despite the obstacle. Biggest challenges is staffing and the access to capital. I thought one percentage that was shared, 60% of women start a business without any bank involvement, any major bank involvement. So these are the things that we're working to change. You're now both a part of my network. Any access to capital issues, I love to try to break down those barriers on what I do on a regular basis.